Yo, guess what? It is time for chapter 19 of ABARAT by Clive Barker. I'm to the dome with this delicious floral blend here. Look at this shit. Everything's rotting. Yuck. Chapter 19. How did I do this? Yeah? Fuck yeah. Cool. I'm gonna do it this way. Chapter 19, entitled On Vespers Rock. Mendelssohn Shape had been to Vespers Rock on several previous occasions, doing little pieces of grim business for carrion. Its name was in every way deceptive. For one thing, it was a good deal more than a rock. It was a collection of enormous boulders, perhaps 15 in all, the smallest of them the size of a house, all surrounded by a wide beach, if that was the appropriate term for something so charmless and uncomfortable, made up of millions of smaller boulders, rocks, stones, and pebbles. Though Shape had once been told that if he listened closely, he would hear the voices of sweet spirits singing lullabies as they circled the island, he had never heard anything so reassuring. Quite the contrary. The rock was a home to species of malignant night bird called the quat, and it was in their relentless screeching out of the cracks of the boulders that they greeted any visitor there. Tonight, however, the quat birds were as silent as those rumored spirit voices, for Christopher Carrion was on Vespers Rock, and even the most rashest bird was hiding its head rather than risk attracting the attention of the Lord of Midnight. Here, let me show this art. Gross. Scooby snacks like a bug. Yeah. Let me wiggle it a lot, so it's really hard to see. I'm sorry. That's the fucking page ripped out. That's what happens. It went for a swim at the gathering. I'm sorry. Oh man, don't lose your pages. Here. And then here's the picture of the boulders. Carrion was working in a cavern formed by several boulders, a place he often used for conjurations, especially when he wanted to work out of sight of his grandmother. She had many spies at Vespers Rock. She had so many spies at midnight, it was virtually impossible to do anything in secret. Vespers Rock presented Carrion with the ideal spot for his private experiments, being close enough to midnight for convenient travel and small enough that he could readily defend it with talismans. Now, in his unholy place between the boulders, he had one of his grandmother's stitchlings at work pounding the remains of 5 mummified human cadavers to dust. The pounder's name was Ignacio, and Ignacio. It's probably Ignacio, yeah. I'm sorry. Woo woo. And he was one of the Mater's motleyest, uglier creations, of which he was antagonizingly aware. He hated the hag, as he had dubbed her, for what she had done to him, and thought she had often called him to service in the 13th tower. He escaped her summonings whenever he could to do odd jobs for Carrion. "Are you done with the corpse dust yet?" Carrion said. "Almost." "Well, hurry. I don't have all night." Carrion allowed himself a smile. "Though one of these days," he murmured to himself, "I will." "Well, what, Lord?" "Have all night." Ignacio. Sorry, I'm trying. Ignacio nodded, not understanding, and continued to beat the bones. A cloud of human dust rose into his face. He sneezed and spat out a wad of phlegm and dust. Then he hammered on for a minute or more just to be sure the job was properly done. Carrion was a perfectionist, and he wanted to please the Nightmare Man, which was Ignacio's secret name for the Lord of Midnight. Eventually he stood up, hammer in hand, and surveyed his handiwork. "I always think they look better this way," he said. Everybody looks better that way, Carrion said, pressing Ignacio's side. Go alert Shape. He's down at the beach eating. Should we come straight back, Ignacio said. He knew very well that some piece of the secret conjuration was about to take place and was eager to witness it. No, said Carrion. You'll know when the work's done. Now get out of here. Ignacio retreated, leaving the Lord of Midnight to crouch down and put his finger into the pounded bones, like a child about to make mud pies. The Nightmare Man paused for a moment, breathing in 2 lungfuls of the fluid that seethed around his head before he began the labors before him. Then, fortified by the horrible visions that filled his every fiber, he began to draw in the dust the outline of the thing that he had intended to raise it from. Ignacio found Mendelssohn's Shape, whom he knew a little from various labors they'd performed together for Carrion, sitting on the starlit beach beside a small cairn of pebbles. He was adding his own choice of stones to the pile. Done eating, Ignacio said. I killed something. Then I wasn't hungry, Mendelssohn said, glancing over at the immense overturned crab. Its legs span fully 6 feet, which lay a little way down the beach. Mendelssohn had torn out its underbelly and begun to eat the cold meat of the thing, but hadn't gotten very far. May I? Said Ignacio. Help yourself. Pity to let it go to waste. He went to the crab and proceeded to plunge his hands into the gray-green entrails, claiming 2 healthy fistfuls of its bitter guts, his favorite portion of the animal, in part because it was the most despised. He was one of the rare, perhaps blessed, stitchlings who ate. Most of his kind had no means of digestion and elimination. Ignacio was a happy exception. 2/3 of his body were still functioning as ordinary human anatomy. He was plagued by constipation and consequently piles, but it was a small price to pay for the pleasure of eating the meat of the crab that still had a couple of nervous twitches in it. He glanced back up the beach at Mendelssohn. What are you here to do? He asked. I'm here to ride whatever he's raising back there, Mendelssohn said gloomily, and then I'm to fetch some girl for him. Is he thinking of getting married then? Not to this one, Mendelssohn said sourly. You know her? We've had our encounters. She comes from the hereafter. Really? Ignacio seized the crab by one of its spiny legs and hauled the carcass up over the stone to where Mendelssohn squatted. You went to the hereafter, he said. Shape shrugged. Yeah, he said. And what was it like? What do you mean, what was it like? Oh, you mean, is it heaven? He looked up at Ignacio, his beady eyes bright with contempt, even in the murk. Is that what you think? No, Ignacio said defensively. Not necessarily. Angels guiding the souls of the dead to the immortal cities of light, the way the old preachers used to tell it. I don't believe all of this nonsense, Ignacio said, concealing his true hopes on the matter, which he had indeed been optimistic. He'd liked the idea that somewhere beyond the Sea of Isabella lay a world where the stitchling such as himself could be healed, his hurts melted away, his mismatchings erased. But much as he wanted to believe in what the preachers pronounced, he trusted Shape. So this girl, he went on, cracking the crab's huge claw and trying to sound indifferent to the news he had just heard. Candy Quackenbush? That's her name? That's her name. She followed you here, and now you have to kill her? I don't know if he wants her killed, but if he does, then I'd kill her. How? I don't know yet, Ignacio. Why do you ask all these stupid questions? Because one day, I want to be doing what you're doing. If you think it's some great honor, it's not. It's better than digging up mummified bodies. You get to travel to the hereafter. It's nothing special, Shape said. Now help me up. He put up his arm so that Ignacio could haul him up onto his foot and stump. Here, look at this crab. Before I turn the page. Ah, crab! I'm getting old, Ignacio, old and tired. You need an assistant, Ignacio said eagerly. I could assist you. I could. Shape glanced at Ignacio, shaking his head. I work alone, he said. Why? Because I only like the company of one person. Who? Me, you fool. Me. Oh. Shape looked back at the boulders where Carrion was working. He had noticed something that Ignacio, in the midst of his envious chatter, had failed to catch. The birds, he said. The quat birds, which had been silent in their crannies since Carrion's arrival on the island, had risen into the air above the rock without uttering a sound, and were now hovering in the vast black cloud, wingtip to wingtip overhead. That's something, where Ignacio said, the wreckage of his stitched and overstitched face registering something close to wonder. He had no sooner set eyes on the flock than from the place among the boulders where Carrion was working, there came a flicker of dark blue-purple light, followed by another, this time orange-red, followed by a third, a hue of bone. The colors rose into the air above the rocks, rising the cloud of quat still higher, and their colors broke into fragments, darts and sliverings of light interlacing, performing an elaborate dance. At this moment, the Creator appeared from between the rocks, his hands raised in front of him as though he were conducting a symphony. Perhaps, in a sense, he was. Certainly, the colors seemed to be responding to the subtle gestures he was making. They were becoming steadily more solid as he knitted them together. Then, very gently, he brought them down out of the air. At his silent instruction, they settled on the long, flat boulder that was the highest point of Vesper's Rock. There, finally, they began to cohere and form a recognizable shape. Is that what you're going to fly on, Ignacio said, his voice barely more than a whisper. Apparently. Good luck, he said. A vast moth, its hairy abdomen 12 feet long and 4 or 5 times thicker than Shape's body, was now perched on the rock, its newly formed anatomy still shedding flecks of color. Apart from its gargantuan size, it was close in appearance to a commonplace moth. It had long, feathery antennae and 6 long, fine legs. But it wasn't until Carrion ordered it to fly, let me see you fly, that its true eloquence was revealed. When it rose up above the island and spread its wings, the markings on them seemed to resemble a vast screaming face, unfolding against the sky, then folding again, then unfolding again. It was as though heaven itself was giving vent to its anguish, as beat upon beat the great creature ascended. Shape, Carrion yelled. Yes, sir, I'm coming. Excuse me. Holy crap. Excuse me some more. Carrion was gesturing to the creature, summoning it back down onto the rock. Shape came to his side. Lord. Prettier than a glyph, don't you think? Carrion said, as the moth settled on the long boulder. Yes, Lord. Climb on its back and fetch me that girl, the Lord of Midnight instructed. Does it know where to look? It will take your direction, but I suggest you start at the Yevadim Day, and don't try and get clever with it. It may not have much of a brain, but I can see what it sees, and I can feel what it feels, and that's why I'm sending you on this, not a glyph. So if you try to trick me in any way... Trick you, Shape protested. Lord, why would I? The girl is mine, Shape. Don't think you can fly away with her. You understand me? You bring her right back to the 12th tower. I understand. There's something about her that makes me uneasy. I want to know why she was brought here. I told you, Lord, it was an accident. I saw it all. I don't believe in accidents, Shape. Everything is working towards some greater plan. Really? Yes. Do I have a place in this plan? Carrion gave Shape a hollow stare. Yes, Shape. Unlikely as it seems, I suppose even you have a purpose. Now go. The longer you wait, the more chance that she's moved on. I'll find her for you, Shape promised. And yes, I know, I'll bring her straight back here to midnight, straight back here to you. And that concludes chapter 19. Holy cannoli. I still gotta say, we're not even halfway through. One heck of a book. Did I show you all the pictures? I did. Boop boop. Have a great day. Well, night. Boop boop.